Hello, welcome. Come on in, put your feet up, make yourself comfortable. I have my cup of tea. Hopefully you do too, or your highly sustainable water bottle. Sustainability, always the watchword. Welcome to Marketing Made Simple. I love it. I love this title. It's all the marketing so critically important to small businesses, particularly at the moment, but simple is right up my street. We are very excited today to be joined by Garry and James, the founders of 33%. To deliver this amazing workshop, Marketing Made Simple. It's going to be so super helpful and practical for your business, which is part of our partnership with Lloyds Bank Academy. And Lloyds Bank Academy is completely fantastic, free resource, open to anyone, don't have to be a Lloyds Bank customer. So go and check it out. Loads of free help and advice for small businesses, loads of webinars like this. In fact, you can always go and catch up on our previous Academy webinars, which are over on the Small Business Britain Facebook page, where they will live for eternity in the meta world. And the big question we get asked, and you're probably going to ask about a million times, is this being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded. So if you need to catch up, if you can't quite scribble down all your notes fast enough as you go, don't worry. We will send you a link so you can catch up afterwards. Anyone who's signed up will get a link, and you can always go over to the Facebook page to go and catch up. So you can find all the Lloyds Bank Academy webinars on there, but do go and check out the Academy as well, because they've got even more that's really, really super helpful for you and your small business. Right, so what's the plan? So Garry and James are very excited. I'm going to talk you through their presentation in a minute. And I can see you've all found the chat already. This is great. That's all going
wow.
on. There's no shortage of chat. Brilliant. Hello, everybody. If you have questions, there's a Q&A box. So pop them in the Q&A box. And when we get to the end of the presentation, we'll have a bit of time to go through questions with Garry and James. So feel free to pop them in there. That's probably enough from me. I'm going to go and drink my cup of tea and start making some notes on Garry and James's incredible insights on Marketing Made Simple. Over to you guys.
Ta-da.
What an intro.
What an intro. And I've gone to another slide, which is basically the same as the previous one, but just with a mad looking person who's a bit stressed by marketing, which is probably where we all are. Very quickly, because James always tells me off, I always forget to do this, which is introduce us. So I am Garry of James and Garry, and James is?
I'm James of James and Garry.
So we are 33%. We built the 33% Academy to do things just like this. So we are, same as Michelle, we are super excited to do this. We do believe marketing should be simple. So when we were asked to do this and we were given a title, it was perfect, made for us, I think. So we're looking forward to doing this. Hopefully we'll keep it as fun and as informal as possible. We know that's how most people like to learn and go along. So we will talk through exactly what we're going to do in just a second. And as Michelle said, if you've got questions, chuck them in the Q&A. We will answer them at the end. And also there's loads of extra little fun bits to do at the end as well. So we'll keep you going all the way through as much as possible. But at this point, I'm going to hand over to James, who, for those of you who are struggling for time, he's got a great idea.
All right. We promised we'd make it simple. So it is as simple as this. So if you've only got like a minute, 2 minutes, this is how to make marketing simple. Know what makes you special, know who your customer is, understand where they hang out, and create engaging content for them. And that really is it. My old boss said to me when I first started, marketing, it's not rocket science. You just got to think like your customer and understand those things. And it's as simple as that. So if that's all the time you've got, it's totally okay for you to be on your way. But if you're willing to stay with us for the rest of the hour, we'll be able to share a little bit more detail on how to understand each of those 4 points. First up, this is just who we are again. This is Garry and I'm James. We've been working in marketing and brand strategy between the two of us. We're combined for a little over 40 years. We've run agencies. We've worked with a lot of big brands, and we've learned a lot from them. And we really got into our heads that marketing shouldn't be complicated. People find marketing complicated. Lots of big agencies make marketing seem difficult and nebulous and a little hard to understand. And we wanted to make it simple. So we set up a business that was all about demystifying marketing, helping people, especially small businesses, really understand what it is they can do, how they can have the most impact, and ultimately how to make marketing what we call ruthlessly efficient, how to make it simple, how to make it so that you can get it done in much less time, because we like you, we've got businesses to run. We've got other work to do. You can't give up everything you do and just do marketing. So we want to try and compact that into as small amount of time as possible so you can get back to running your amazing businesses and not get stressed out by marketing. And the thing is, at the moment, I'd say you've never had more opportunity to be able to do marketing. There's so many free platforms out there. You go and ask anybody and they'll tell you, hey, you should be on TikTok, or you need to have a page over here. You need to add this over here. What you're doing on Reddit, all these different possible channels. And it can be like, kind of, I always use the analogy of like a Tasmanian devil, where you've got this kind of whirlwind flying past you all the time. And it's impossible to see where you're trying to get to, because you can just see all these different things you could be doing. And you know, again, if you're anything like we are, you can fall victim to the shiny thing syndrome, where you spot an exciting opportunity, think, oh, I'll go and have a little play around with that over there, or I'll try this new idea out and see how that goes. And before you've really given that a chance, you're sort of distracted by trying something else over here. So this can become, you know, ultimately, it's, you know, analysis paralysis. It can become completely overwhelming and completely impossible. So you've got to be able to shrink that down, to really focus on the next little thing that you can do to have impact for your business. And that's how you overcome this opportunity overwhelm.
And there is no bigger area than, as James has been describing, where you just get overwhelmed with the amount of different opportunities there are out there, than with the amount of channels you can use, the amount of places you can actually go and market your products or services. And that's really where we wanted to start, but also start by helping you understand how you can get that. And we will use the word focus a lot throughout this. We really do believe that marketing is about focus. It's about knowing what you need to do. So let's look at some of those channels. You've got outreach, you know, email, word of mouth, phoning people, my word, the old way, or even the really old way of doing things, and actually sending something in the post. We always remember there was a day when you used to get a couple of emails a day and piles and piles of junk mail through the post. Now it's the reverse. It's almost people get excited when something drops through the post, because you don't get that very often. So there's all these different options there and to do with outreach. Then, of course, we have social media. There are, you know, I mean, that's not all of them. We're not going to put everything up on screen, but there are so many different options. By the time, you know, we've been going, what, about 10 minutes? Google's probably released and failed with 2 more social media apps by this point. So, you know, there are always new things being added all the time. And as James said, the temptation is that whole, shiny thing, shiny thing. And there's no getting away from it. As much as we'd like to preach, we are also guilty of that. You know, sometimes we do forget, we do see the new shiny thing. I am guilty. I have done a TikTok video. I apologize to everybody who's ever seen it. It's a dreadful, awful thing. There's lots of pointing and there's some weird dancing, but you know, we run a marketing agency. Apparently it's a requirement of us. There's also then what we call this ads and local strategy. So Facebook ads, Google ads, doing PPC. You've also got SEO in there, which is a critical part of anything. And one that people often forget, which is Google My Business, which for the people on this call in particular, any small business that has any localized element to them, Google My Business, it's free and it's an absolute no-brainer in terms of helping with your rankings and helping get your visibility up. So we'll always encourage people to look at things like that. But again, I'm encouraging you to do more things. So there's an extra thing on top of you, but we haven't finished yet, because there's messaging apps that are growing in popularity. You know, WhatsApp are now starting to introduce marketing on top of the fact you can do SMS, you can contact people on Facebook messaging and everything else. And then you've got a plethora of digital content, you know, white papers. We're doing a webinar. Here's an example of it right now. One of James's favorite, loves a podcast, the ability to sponsor them and do that. But then I also put LinkedIn here because that's sort of a social media app, but it's also full of digital content. So it sort of fits somewhere around then. And as you can see, there's so many options and you're only one person or you're just a really small business. Where do you start? And this is just digital. I haven't even done the same slide for going offline, where a lot of you will be doing leaflets, you'll be going to events, you'll be doing face-to-face calling, you'll have your own shop. The amount of options available to us are huge, and they're not getting smaller. The reality is new opportunities for marketing coming in every single month, something new, and it does require that focus. It requires you to be able to strip away the things that don't matter. And this is really the start of what the secret is to doing marketing. It is actually stripping away the things that don't matter, the things that you don't care about. And you strip it back, and this is for us. This is what me and James do. And actually, we find that the only channels we need to worry about is all that. We run a marketing agency. You've seen all those channels. We really only focus our efforts on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on doing digital content like this, which is great, because what we do is we do the channels for the audience that matter. And you say, who's the audience? Well, obviously it's Valerie and Paul. Valerie and Paul are our customers. That's who we appeal to. That's who we'd like to make sure we know that's where Valerie and Paul hang out for us.
All right, so that's all well and good. If you know who
There you
your
go.
Valerie and
Problem
Paul is,
solved.
you know your ideal customer. What if you don't know who your ideal customer is? Well, that's what you got to do next. You got to think of your ideal customer, because the truth is that not everyone is your audience. And I don't care if you've got the best product in the world. We believe we've got a great service that we can offer to people, just like I'm sure you do as well. But there's no way that as a small business, we've got enough money, enough budget to be able to market to absolutely everybody. So we're far better off focusing on those ideal customers, those people that are going to be our repeat customers, people who are going to come back time and time again. They're going to tell their friends. So I want you to think of your customer like they're your best friend. Everyone's got that person. That maybe it's a member of their family, maybe it's a really close friend, someone you know in your whole life. You've got that person, you know them better than you know yourself. You don't have to think about what you're going to say to them. You just say it instinctively. So when you see something interesting online, you think, oh, I better text that to them, or I'll send them a message, or I'll share that funny thing with them because I know they'll get a kick out of it. And you don't get 3 other people to sign off your copy because you don't need to, because you know that it makes sense for them. And that's how you should feel about your ideal customer. They're the people that come and buy over and over again. They spend more money. They share your values. It's not always about selling more things. It's about having the right kind of customers, and they'll obviously tell their friends about it. They'll love all your content. And so that's what you got to do. You got to get to know them. You got to paint a picture of them, and then it will make everything you do, whether it's launching new products, whether it's writing your social media content, whether it's, literally every part of your business is easier when you really, really understand who your ideal customer is. So how do you go about really nailing that down? So we'll use our examples first off with Paul and Valerie. So these are the people when we started out, we created these avatars for the people that we wanted to talk to. So Valerie is our person. She lost her job during COVID. She set up a business selling homemade crafts. It was a passion project, but she realized it could be a real job. And she likes to show off a bit of a success at the school gates. Whereas Paul, he's running a small consultancy. He's got a team of people, but he's got no one handling marketing. And he has a little small selection of loyal clients. So the first thing that we do when we're trying to understand a customer avatar, an ideal customer, is we think about the pain. And this is the problem that we solve for our customers, because at the end of the day, most of what we're all offering is some way of solving a problem, some issue. That's ultimately, when we're thinking about making a customer take action. People take action when they're in pain. People want to fix a problem. When they're comfortable and we're all just relaxed and sitting back and not too bothered, we don't tend to do anything. We tend to just sit back and let it all happen. Whereas when we're in pain, we want to do something. So we think about the pains that we solve for our customers. So for Valerie, she lost her job during COVID. She loves what she's doing, but she doesn't want it to be too stressful. So she wants to fit it in around her lifestyle. And she worries that she might have to go back to getting a day job, a normal job, and not be able to work for herself anymore. So these are all things that we can talk about that will make her think, hey, they get me. They understand what I'm talking about. They understand my problems. For Paul, it's a bit different. He finds sales and marketing very confusing, a bit like we've talked about. It's a bit overwhelming. There's so many things you could be doing. He's also managing a load of other people. So there's not enough hours in the day. He's trying to fit it in, but he's not getting it done. And he's under pressure from his, he puts himself under pressure from his family, from his friends. He's got to support his whole business, and that can be really overwhelming. And again, we can talk to that. We can help him. That's why we talk about how to crush the time it takes you to get your marketing done down to as small amount as possible, so you can get on with other work as well. So once we understand our pains, then we think about the needs and desires that we supply. So for Valerie, again, when we talk about a need, we're really talking about something that you absolutely can't live without. So this is something that a problem you solve for your customer. This is a thing that they have to have. So when we talk about the difference between a need and a desire, we often talk about things like toilet paper for some reason. So toilet paper, everyone needs toilet paper. But if you work from home, you need printer paper because you've got to print stuff out. But if you're an artist, you need art paper. So you see how the need is subjective. It entirely depends on your customer. So you've got to really think about getting into your head of your ideal customer, understand what are the things that they need and what are the things they want. And the things that they want, they'll often pay a little bit more for. You'll see there's a bit of Lego behind me here. And Garry often suggests that is something I want, when in fact, I understand that it is something I need.
To be clear, I don't suggest it. It is a fact.
I need it. But anyway, that's by the by. So for Valerie, she does need a steady flow of customers, but she needs to be able to, she wants to be able to flow, sort of ebb and flow the amount of customers she has, so she doesn't get overwhelmed. She wants to be able to connect with her customers and engage with her customers. So again, that changes the type of marketing that she would want to do. Paul, he needs new business leads. He wants to get marketing done in less time, and he wants to be more profitable. He wants better customers, and that's what that comes down to. So you got to balance those needs and those desires. And again, the way you market to them, it can be different depending on what the needs and desires are. And the final part is purchase drivers. Now, I find this really interesting. So this is, I often use Garry and myself as the example here. So the purchase driver is the thing that makes the customer take action. So now you know a bit about who they are. You really understand what they need, what they want, and what is the pain they're going through that you can solve. But how are you going to make them take action? How are you going to make them buy something from you or engage your services? And we tend to think people fall into one of two categories. I'm a very impulsive purchaser. If I see a ticking countdown, a limited time offer, a special deal, shut up and take my money. I will straight away, I'm like, yeah, I've got to get it. Someone else will get it before me, or I need to get it whilst it's there. A bit of a sucker like that. Whereas Garry is very smart. He's very considered. He thinks about whether, he never buys anything that that he doesn't need. He goes to the supermarket with a big list, and he wouldn't be lured in by the things on the end of the aisles ever.
I genuinely don't understand who doesn't go to the supermarket with a list in the order of exactly how it works in the shop, so you follow it through. But anyway, that's just me.
Different strokes for different folks, isn't it? But and in truth, I'm perhaps being a little bit I'm generalizing a little bit there. The truth is that oftentimes there's a bit of a blend of both types of people. So you have to get into the head again of your ideal customer. How do they like to buy from you? Are they someone that's driven by value, where a special offer is going to get them to make a decision? Or are they someone that's going to really consider this purchase, in which case you need to think about your reviews, you need testimonials, you need lots of social proof. And I would say, again, oftentimes it's something somewhere in the middle. There are always going to be customers we've got that do like, that are waiting for that deal before they take action. But there are plenty of others where they just want to see reviews. They want to see advice. They want to see other people making recommendations. And the key thing here is we often see this with small businesses all the time, people we talk to. Everybody undervalues what they offer. They often bring their price down because what they want to do is be cheaper than the next person up, be cheaper than the competition. And that's not always the answer. And again, that's one of the beauties of understanding your ideal customer, because when you get into the head of your ideal customer, you sometimes realize that actually money is not the priority. They're much more interested in service. They're much more interested in the kind of the quality of the customer service, the quality of the product, all these other kinds of things. And actually reducing your price can be a turn-off for some people. So it's really important to understand what it is that motivates your customer to make action. And then that ultimately helps you price your things correctly, provide the right service and everything like that. The last thing that we do just to really sort of flesh out our customer avatars is to put down a bit about their interests. And we're not sort of talking about understanding what they have for breakfast or these kind of things. A lot of time we get into this kind of concept, you have to flesh these people out so you know their whole entire life story. We're really talking about here is by understanding a bit about, Valerie's got a husband, she's got 2 kids, understanding what social media platforms she likes to use, what she does in the evenings, by understanding that Paul likes travel, by understanding that he likes listening to podcasts. It helps us know where to go to find him. So we know he listens to podcasts. And if we know he listens to podcasts, we could potentially sponsor a podcast. We could volunteer to be a guest on a podcast or do something like that. So it helps us both know what we're going to say to these people, but also where we might find them. And frankly, by putting a face, by putting an age, by giving them a name, it just helps us picture them. I can't picture a person who is a man or a woman between the age of 20 and 55 who might like cycling as well as fishing and cooking. It's impossible. You can't picture that person. That's just a load of different people. And the other thing is, don't worry about just having one. You can have 2 or 3 of these people. Oftentimes we have several different types of customers. So if you find yourself thinking, yeah, but my customer could be between sort of 25 and 55. Well, maybe those 2 people's lives are very, very different. So maybe have a 25-year-old and a 55-year-old and look at how you market to those people differently. And that is how you kind of use your ideal customer to get the best out of your marketing.
I genuinely can't emphasize enough the importance of putting a face on it. I remember when we first did this exercise, we both run businesses before, but when we set this business up together, literally the second thing we did after coming up with a name was who are our customers going to be? And we've had those pictures up in our office since then, because whenever we sit down with a team and we talk about a piece of marketing, we just look on the wall. We go, right, we're going to write this blog. Will Paul read it? Will Valerie read it? We're going to guest appearance on this. We're obsessive about podcasts, so we went to go guests on lots of podcasts. But then we stopped to ourselves and go, is Paul or Valerie ever going to listen to these podcasts? Because if they're not, then why are we doing it beyond vanity, which is obviously an important part of life. But so I can't emphasize that enough, that when you can visualize someone, it's so much easier to remember what matters to them. And we promised that we would talk about real life case studies throughout this, and hopefully ones that relate to you guys. And I want to share a story about Faye. Faye is one of the first people we ever worked with. This is probably nearly 2 years ago, I think, when we first started Faye. It was on the back of a webinar that we actually did, and she came to us, and her problem was quite simple. We were running a workshop with her. We were trying to help her build a marketing plan, but partway through that session, we got into a big conversation with her because she was really struggling where to find her customers. And she was a graphic artist, and she did some really good but very generic art. And it was, like I say, it was good stuff that most people would buy as a gift for somebody else, but it wasn't really targeted at any particular customer at all. And we were in the break and we were just chatting, and she started telling us, she pulled up a picture, the picture you can see on the right-hand side. She actually showed it to us on screen, and immediately we both recoiled and were scared by it, as you can probably guess. But when she put it up quite close, but we asked her about it, and she was telling us, what her passion for horror movies. Now, I can't remember, James, can you remember who the character is?
I think the one she showed us was from Pan's Labyrinth.
That's right.
If that chap is from that or not.
So she started sharing about it, and she started sharing a passion for it, and she started talking about how she was part of this community, and then she went, yeah, and I shared this picture online, and then like quite a few people actually then said, oh, I should could I have a copy of it? And we were just like, we've got 45 minutes into a 2-hour workshop, and suddenly you revealed what your niche is. We don't use that. We haven't used that word up to this point, but it really is the ultimate focus of who your customer is, understanding your niche. So we just worked on that for the next hour and a quarter, and we worked with Faye, and we went, okay, this is perfect. This is, who your customer is. You understand the pains of those people. You understand the desires they have to do with this genre. And we started working through, and she ended up not just focusing on that, but she built an entirely separate brand focused solely just on horror graphic art. The end of that, we spoke to her about a month after we had this workshop. She'd got herself booked on the #1 horror podcast in the UK, where she got to talk about her art. And she was on because she was already on a lot of these forums. So she was already in a position to talk directly. She was a respected part of the community. And I really think it's a brilliant example of how focusing on exactly who your customer is not only can make your marketing and your sales more targeted, but in Faye's case, it completely changed her product offering. And I think, we're not suggesting on the back of, spending 45 minutes to an hour with James and me, you're suddenly going to pivot your entire business. In fairness, that's what Faye did, and it worked for her. But I think it's a really, really good example of exactly how you get laser focus. And as we keep saying, for us, marketing is about focus. Her job at this point became so much easier because she knew exactly how to talk to those people. She knew where they hung out, and she knew exactly what sort of products to sell to them. So I think it's a really, really good example of someone and how this idea of your ideal customer really, really works. But we've only touched on one part of the puzzle. The next bit we were going to talk about is all about content marketing and how that can be really, really overwhelming. To start with, the phrase itself is overwhelming. Content marketing sounds expensive. It sounds complicated. It sounds typically like a media agency or a marketing agency would do to try and make you pay more, basically, for doing it. And as two people that have, over the last 20 years, run various different marketing agencies, we've probably been guilty of trying to make marketing seem more expensive and complicated than it is. But nowadays, we don't bother with any of that stuff. So, starting point, let's rename it. It's just what to talk about. That's all it is.
Also, Gary, some people have mentioned in the chat is tedious is something that a lot of people find. Just creating content all the time, coming up with social media content, they find it boring.
100%.
I think that's another problem, isn't it? People think it's really, really boring.
It is. And actually, what you want to get to, the process we're going to talk about in just a second, let me give you an example. You're at a party. You're in a little group here, and there's another group over there. And this little group over here is just generally chit-chatting, and somebody brings up a subject. And let's again, because we'd like to parody ourselves quite a lot, let's just say this group over there is talking about Lego. And me and James are over here having a chat. And then someone suddenly goes, they point over, and James doesn't know what they're saying, but all he knows is they're pointing over and nodding, and everyone's going, what's happening is they're going, oh, right, you're asking about a Lego set for your kids. Yeah, go talk to James. He's the expert. He knows everything about that. And that's where you want to get. This is what we're going to get into in a second, is we want to find those subjects that people look at you and go, that's the person I want to talk to, because they know what they're talking about. They know they can talk confidently and people want to hear about it. And that's really what we're talking about when we get into content marketing. We want to understand what makes you special, what you confidently talk about, and what your customers want to hear about. And we always say this, it doesn't matter what you think, it only matters what your customer thinks. And that's why we always go through that before we hit the content. We always talk about those ideal customers, because it's about the content that Valerie and Paul want to read or want to view or want to see. That's what matters to us. So to keep everything simple, we like to do, and I am a bit of a, we've parodied James a little bit, but I am a bit of a nerd at heart, and I do love a Venn diagram. So we're going to turn this into a really, really simple Venn diagram, which is nice and easy to follow. So we start with the first circle is things you can talk about confidently. The reason this is important is because, as you can tell, James and I love marketing. We've done it for, combined 40 plus years. It's a subject we love talking about. We're confident talking about it. And as a result, hopefully, the enthusiasm comes across. And that's an important part of marketing and a really, really key thing to content marketing. Even in a written format, your enthusiasm, your knowledge, your expertise has to come across. And if you're confident talking about something, if you're just making it up, people see through it, particularly people who also understand that subject, which is what your customers do. So it really, really is important that you're confident that you're talking about a subject. The next one should be a fairly obvious one, which is what makes you special. Ultimately, you want to be talking about things that your company is special with. And we all know, obviously, what your company is special with.
Hang on a minute, Gary. At the risk of a predetermined segue, what if you don't know what makes you special? What if we haven't actually?
What a genuinely excellent point, James. And in great
another slide
in great Blue Peter style.
Oh,
look at that! I just knocked this up.
Perfect. You do have to understand what makes you special. And a lot of people talk about about USPs. People will always ask you, what's your USP? And that's really it's really hard. USPs are a bit of a nonsense, really, because all the songs have been sung, all the rhymes have been made. It's very difficult to come up with something that is entirely unique. And maybe you have got something that's completely unique, and that's amazing, awesome. But most of the time, it's a combination of lots of different things. It's a combination of the thing that you offer and the way that you offer it and how you do it, and the presentation and the look of it, and all these kind of things mixing in together. This is your secret sauce. And we always say, you have to double down on the things that you're really great at, the things your business is great at. And this, we always use the example of when you're at school, if you're good at maths, then they'll often tell you, well, you could do with getting a bit better at English. Or if you're good at sport, you could do with being a bit better at art as well. And even when you get a job, people say to you, well, you're quite creative, but you're not very organized. That was something I heard quite a lot when I was working in a normal job.
It still does.
And still do quite regularly from Gary. But the point is that actually I spent a lot of time running my business, trying to get better at operations, trying to get better at finance, trying to get better at all these different things that I wasn't that great at. And the truth is I should have spent my time getting better at the things I was already good at. And that's what you've got to do with your business and with yourself as well. This is not just about your business. It's about how you get the most enjoyment from your work. And you won't get the most enjoyment from your work by trying to get good at something you hate. The trick is to get good, really, really, really good at something you love. And then ideally build that success, get someone else in to do those things. You can find someone else to do your finance, find a Gary, they'll sort that stuff out. That's what you need to do.
We've want to promote, but obviously if you are looking for someone to help you with the things you're not good at, that's why places like Small Business Britain and the Lloyd's Academy exist because they give you assistance in the areas that you aren't strong on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's so much resource out there to help you with the things that you're not great at, but there's only one you that's amazing at the things that you're awesome at. So I just keep getting better, keep getting better. So what we tend to say is when you finish with this, I want you to just write down three things that make you stand out from the competition. What is it that makes you different? And then 3 specific skills that you've learned over the course of your career, of your life, however long it's been, that make you successful, things that you've learned that you could keep doubling down on, you could keep increasing and making better. And then ultimately, if you've got loads of customers, great, actually you could ask them. But even if you haven't got that many, think about, what do you want your customers to say? If I went and rang up any of your customers and said, what is it that makes this business awesome? What is it that makes this person great? Why do you do business with them? What would they say to me? What would be the reasons that they would say? And those are the things that make you special. That's your secret sauce. And then you'll be able to put that into Garry's Venn diagram.
Oh, yes. Back to the Venn diagram. Okay, so we now know what makes our company special. We've talked about the things that we're confident talking about. Now for the most important part of the diagram, which is the things that your customers want to hear about. Ultimately, if you talk about lots of exciting things your company does really, really well, but no one cares to listen to it or to read about or whatever else, it is a complete and utter waste of time. There's no polite way of putting it. There are various different intersections here, but the only intersection that matters is the sweet spot right in the middle. And it's what we call the subjects of influence. The things that at a dinner party, someone points over and says, there's your man, there's your woman. That's the person to go and talk to. They are the absolute, expert in that. They'll talk to the cows come home. They'll probably bore you, quite frankly. And I know James could absolutely bore us on the subject of Lego. But ultimately, these are the subjects of influence, the subjects that you talk about, that your customers care about, and that your company does a really, really good job about. And we don't ever come up with these things without doing them ourselves. So here's a way more complicated screen to look at than any of your previous ones. But this is an example of us pulling together the different things that we love talking about. And some of them aren't even to do with our work, if I'm honest with you. The things that we know our customers, and our customers being Paul and Valerie, small businesses, really care about, and the things that as a business we do really, really well. And we pull those together. And in the end, we're very good at helping people come up with content ideas. And we've got something about that later. We're great, efficiency marketing is our thing. The subject of the webinar today is marketing made simple. And the reason we like to do that is because we think you should be efficient. As James said right at the start, we'd love everybody to spend 6 hours a day on marketing like we do. But the reality is you probably don't have that. And the reality is you may only have half an hour. And that's, that we're literally writing a book, which is just 30 minutes a day marketing, because I think that is what people should be sort of dreaming of and heading towards. We help people generate and convert leads. And as I think is fairly obvious, we help people understand who their customer is. And we've actually got an ebook that we'll talk to you about at the end, which will hopefully help you understand exactly who your customer is. So that's it. That's the secret.
Simple as that. Yeah. And as you can see, you started off with an overwhelming number of different channels. This isn't all of them, but there's too many there to think about, too many things for you to be able to do, so many things you could potentially talk about as well, so many different subjects that you could be discussing with people, and a lot, and every possible customer under the sun, a huge number of people. But by distilling down those customers and focusing on those specific people that are your ideal customers, by understanding where they hang out and reducing the number of places you're going to talk to them there, and by crushing down the number of subjects you're going to talk about, you've got something a lot more manageable, something a lot more straightforward. Ultimately, you're just going to focus on what makes you special, narrow down those customers, identify those places that are going to be hanging out, and understand what you're going to say to them and what you're going to say to them to make them take action as well. That's going to ultimately convert them into more great new business leads.
Hold on a minute. You promised me a bonus tip.
Always a bonus tip. And this is really important.
I'm going to have a guess what your bonus tip is.
It's consistency, Garry. That's what it is. And this is really important because this happens, we've all done this. We've done, I don't know, about you guys, I've done a lot of webinars like this, and I come away thinking, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go away and I'm going to work out this right now. I'm going to do 50 posts today. No, I've never said that. That would be ridiculous. But I'm going to do like 2 or 3 posts every day. And I'm going to write a new blog at least once a week. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it probably lasts for about 2 weeks. And then I generally give up because, I've got a job to do. I've got a business to run and I've got loads of other stuff to do. And I know that's going to be the same for you guys as well. So think about what's manageable. How much time can you give this in a day? And you should be giving it some time a day because this is marketing. This is how you're going to get new business and you need new business to survive. So, but give yourself a little parcel of time, consider it half an hour, whatever that may be, but give yourself that time and use it consistently. Say, I'm going to do 2 or 3 posts a week. That's fine. If you think that's realistic and you think you can do it regularly. And if you start to see the results, then maybe you increase it. But ultimately, don't set yourself up to fail. Make sure that you can do it consistently and don't give up if it's not working because it will take time. Results, when you really understand your ideal customer, you've got to find that audience. You've got to get those people coming to you and you've got to get people to start knowing who you are and recommending you. And that does take time. And that means you do need to keep consistently making those posts, writing those articles, engaging with people in those communities, and you will gradually start to see those results happen. And the beauty of them is they're exponential. It's a snowball effect. Once you start getting results, then success begets more success and it starts to blow up ultimately, and you will see massive results.
Talking of results.
Yes. So this guy, Ian, so he was a guy we worked with. It was a little while ago now, and he was a bit like, it's very similar to our avatar rapport. He was running a business, it was a very small business, and he was just completely swamped off his feet. He was very successful during the sort of start of the original lockdown. Lots of people buying things online. He was selling things online. It was really, really great for him, which was fabulous. But he was coming home at night, or he was, coming out of his back bedroom into another room in his house, as was often the case. And then he was having to write content, was trying to do marketing, and it was just stressful and miserable and not very fun at all, because ultimately he completely lost any sense of work-life balance or anything like that. And he was just trying everything. He was trying to be present in too many different places. He was trying to do all this different types of content. He was doing blogs. He was trying to host webinars, doing all manner of different stuff. So again, we went through that process of shrinking that down and kind of encouraging him, I was going to say forcing him, but that would be a bit unfair, but encouraging him to parcel that time out and say, yeah, 30 minutes every day you're going to dedicate to doing some marketing. And sometimes actually he ended up doing, a little bit longer, but less often in a week. And that, again, it's what works for you. It's the best way to manage your time. You might say, do you know what? I can do 2 or 3 hours on a Monday and then I'm not going to do any more. And you can set it up to run for the week. And sometimes that's quite possible as well. But ultimately, he shrunk down that amount of time he was spending. He really focused on doing things that had impact. And then gradually he's been able to do a bit more and spend a bit more time, but knowing that that time he's spending is of value and is ultimately going to get him results, which is what you need to be doing. You need to ultimately only do the things that are going to get you the results that you want. And then this is what happens. I said it was simple, and I think it is simple. And then maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but ultimately you understand what makes you special. You know who your customer is, you know where they hang out, and you create engaging content for them. And hopefully, if you do those things, you'll go from feeling a little bit like this lady here to feeling a bit more like this lady here, a little bit more serene and relaxed. And it really is, it is straightforward. You just have to break it down into small parts and go through that process. And then ultimately you will have success with your marketing.
Now, the thing is, you thought you were going to get an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of just wonderful marketing content. But what you didn't realize was you were going to get some freebies as well, which is what we're all about. I tell you I was going to give away freebies. Sorry, I do apologize. I normally forget to tell you that. So we have written an ebook. It's about 40 pages long, which is quite big for an ebook. We might even have to print it out, make it an actual book. But it's a practical guide. We will bore people to death talking about ideal customers. And it was the biggest part of this webinar for a reason, because we believe if you get that right, everything else is so much easier. So we did a book on it. It has an entire process to take you through. We have templates in there. It doesn't matter who you are, large or small. We've used this. This is the process we use when we do actual, paid work with clients. And we just wanted to hand it over to you guys so that it's a thing that you can use. So we'll make sure the link to that
because
goes out
in
the
complicated.
email.
I know we've kind of rattled through that in this, this fairly short
as we always
space
do.
Of time. And I've seen a couple of people in the chat, how do I understand my ideal customer? How do I get into their head and things like that? And this just takes it in a little bit more detail, takes you through that process of needs, desires, pains, purchase drivers, again, one at a time, and ultimately helps you break that out, and it takes that through in a process. And I think it will massively help, because again, it's thinking like a customer is my number one tip for successful marketing.
Yeah, and as I say, what we'll do is we'll give a link to how to download this at the end. We'll have, there's a link in a second, but we'll actually make sure it goes out in the email that you get the confirmation of the webinar in it as well, and the link will be in the air. But combined with that, and we did this last time that we were on last year, and we met so many. Some of the weirdest and most fun people that I've ever met, if I'm honest with you. And I mean weird in a good way. Some business ideas that we've never even considered were a possibility, including a sperm bank. I'll be honest with you, that's probably one of the weirder ones we've ever worked with. But basically, we want to offer a workshop that we do. It's just it's a 30-minute Zoom call. You don't have to come up to the north if you're not based up here. But if you want to come and meet us, you can. That's absolutely fine. But what we try and do in these workshops is we go, right, in advance, tell us your single biggest problem with marketing, preferably stick it to marketing.
Yeah, do keep it to marketing.
Yes, okay, absolutely keep it to marketing.
Limited experience helping in other areas.
Yes, unless it's Lego. I mean, if you want to talk to James about Lego, book a 30-minute call, absolutely fine, not a problem as well. But if you want to stick it to marketing, it's absolutely fine. And just tell us what that big problem is, and then we'll just brainstorm it for 30 minutes. There's no sales. We don't try, it is literally just advice. Our goal is to just try and give you some ideas. We can't promise to solve everyone's problems, but we will do our best. We always say there's a workshop we run in Manchester for small businesses in Manchester. And we always say during that the single biggest reason that people like talking to us is because we always keep telling them all the things we've done wrong in the past. It's like someone will go, so I've got this idea, I want to do this. And we'll go, I've done that. Yeah, total disaster. Total disaster. Don't do that again. Because that's what we've done. In 40 years, we've made, both for our clients and for ourselves, more mistakes than we probably should admit to. But the reality is we've all made mistakes. So we try and help people learn from them. And that's really what these workshops are about. They're offering you ideas. They're giving you advice. They're basically saying, oh, don't do that, but maybe try this.
Yeah, often it's just signposting you to where to go next. And this is the thing to focus on for the next little bit.
And at that point, I will bring up the following slide, which Michelle will then go, I recognize that. That is my cue to quickly finish off that cup of tea that she's doing. She may have got some toast as well, for all I know. And is quickly coming back on screen. Hello.
I need a toaster and a tea maker on my desk.
Well, tea's made.
I had a teas made as a student. It was my mum's present to me when I went to university. That's, by the way, that was 20 plus years ago. So let's not talk about that.
Teas made. I haven't seen those in a while.
No.
I've got a toddler. I need to get her trained. Thank you, amazing. I love this. You guys are so full of enthusiasm. It's absolutely brilliant. And we're all special. We are all special. Lots of questions. Lots of questions coming in. I've got pose a couple of them to you in the. We've not got a huge amount of time. We've got a bit of time for questions, so pose a couple of them to you, and we'll see where the conversation goes. So. First up from Douglas, how do you find your ideal customer when your business is so varied and crosses every sector?
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? So, well, the first thing is you got to think about. I mean, it's obviously it's very difficult to answer the question. Every business is completely different, so it's hard to broad brush approach this, but there will probably be some commonalities in those customers. And what we tend to do is start with identifying your best selection of customers. So if you've got a customer that, let's say you've got customers in lots and lots of different sectors, but then there will probably be some commonality between those customers, something about them that is similar, something about the way what they buy from you and the problem that you solve. So you start to think about, again, we go back to what makes you special. What is the problem that you solve for your customer? And try and isolate that one thing, and then think about that problem you solve, and then that ideal customer, and then consider a number of individual ideal customers. We have worked with businesses that have 10 different ideal customers because they are working in, generally these are larger businesses, but they're working in lots of different sectors, and those customers are entirely different, and therefore their marketing needs to be entirely different for each of those people. But generally with a small business, I would, would genuinely encourage you to try and shrink it down as possible. Focus on the next thing. Focus on the most, where the biggest opportunity is, for more of those customers, and ultimately, for your product or service to be most successful. That tends to be the way to try and do it. Yeah, I keep saying it, but kind of shrink it down, shrink the problem down. If the world seems too big because you're focusing on so much stuff you could potentially do, shrink it down and try and think about the next success that you can have and the next customer you can find.
And you brought up one thing that we didn't cover, we often talk about, which is someone says, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the question, so if it is in there, I apologize, but I'm sure it won't be, but who is your best customer? Because everyone just automatically assumes your best customer is, you go for the list and go, it's the person who spent the most money. Well, there's not. They could be the person that buys the best, most profit margin based products. It could be the frictionless customer, the one that doesn't cause you loads of hassles, because the person who spends the most might be the biggest.
Cost too much to serve. That's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It totally. And then there's a final one, which is people always forget, which is a critical one. And we've, for example, I know 2 people that we've got that are not our best customers in terms of they've never spent the most money with us, but they are the best advocates we've ever had. And I can tell you now that one of them came on the back of, we met her through this through doing this webinar a year ago. Rebecca, James knows Dr. Rebecca. We had to call her Dr. Rebecca because she is a doctor, and we just love the fact that she's just Rebecca. We always call her Dr. Rebecca. But basically, these are the people that tell everybody else about you. These are the people that write the most amazing reviews. These are the people that recommend you. She goes on LinkedIn every 5 minutes and tells somebody about. We only talk to her about once every 2 or 3 months, but every time when we chat for an hour on a Zoom call, that's all we do. We don't she hasn't been a customer for a long time. She's just a friend now, but she goes around telling everybody else about what we do. And so you need to, she is. They are the cheerleaders. So you need to think about who those people are as well, because they will get you into different areas.
I love it. Find yourself some cheerleaders, definitely. I've got some really interesting questions. So we're going to dip in a little bit. James says, the problem as ever is having ADHD. Consistency and focus are really difficult. Can you recommend any systems or apps that can help with scheduling?
I love an app. I do love it. I'm not sure I'd recommend an individual one, but I do think building yourself a process so I'm going to say it quite quietly because she's upstairs, but my wife's got a bit of a she needs to really help and focus. And so we literally just have a system of everything is written down. You basically need reminders. That everything is built around reminders in these scenarios, because if you want to be consistent, you have to be reminded. It's all right saying to yourself, I'm going to do an hour every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. But you need reminders. And the best way to do that, for example, is it's the simplest and cheapest way of doing it. It's just put it in your calendar. So start treating your own marketing like a customer. That's what me and James had. We found, we run a marketing agency and we weren't doing much marketing for a period of time because we were really busy. And then we just went, we just have to book it in. We have to treat it like a customer. In the same way, and I don't want to go off a complete tangent, I remember doing a really good session with an amazing ex-fireman who's a mental health officer. And he said, the best way to look after yourself, your well-being, is you book a slot in your own diary for time for yourself. And it's exactly the same when you want to do all sorts of things like this. And marketing is one of them. Just book it in as if you're a client, and then just treat yourself as importance. Don't go, oh, somebody asked me if I can have a meeting at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Oh, well, I've only got a booking in for doing a bit of marketing. I can block that out. You have to be strong. I think that's the other thing. Be consistent, but also be strong, because it's so easy to just override your own. We've all done it. You've kind of just ignored your own meetings because clients are more important, but you have to be quite strong.
We often talk about the need for the marketing strategy, which is, often people, small businesses especially, think marketing strategy, that's for big businesses. That's not something we need to worry about. But all these things we've been talking about today, that's all this really is a marketing strategy. It's understanding what you're trying to achieve and where you're meant to go next. And the idea behind that, the idea of having these ideal customers, the idea of understanding what your goal is, means that you don't get distracted by those other things. And I am someone who gets distracted by things very, very easily. But by having those checks and balances and that ability to say, right, would this be interesting to our ideal customer? Would it be a product they would like? Would it be a piece of content they would share? You ask yourself those questions and you say to yourself, is this valuable? If it isn't, put it in the ideas drawer, save it for another time, because there's a good chance that you'll come back to that at some point in the future. But for now, put it to one side and accept that it's probably not the right thing for you to do right away. And then keep going in the same direction for a period of time.
James loves an idea drawer, by the way. We did an entire podcast just on his ideas drawer.
I love it. My team actually they have to deal with me and being over space. They use Trello actually, and it's great because it's a freemium model, so you can get a free version, or you can add bits on, see how it goes, see how it works for you. Other things are
you sound like you're on the BBC again there.
On the BBC, other things are available, but it was, I never go on it ever. Just doesn't work for my brain, but for them it gives them structure, it gives them a plan, they know exactly where they are, and I love that, and I feel better because they've got structure, which means that my kind of craziness gets a little funneled. So yeah, we use Trello, but other things are available. Another question: do charities market in the same way as a business? It feels a bit different.
Right, so we did a podcast. I don't know if but we did a podcast series last year, which was the Charity Leaders podcast. So we interviewed various leaders, various sizes of charities. We ended by interviewing oh God, I forgot his name. James can remember it, but the CEO of
the RSPCA, CEO of the RSPCA, and it was the whole thing was about how do charities market themselves differently to businesses. So
worth catching up on that one then, everyone.
I would point you in that.
If you are a charity,
sure,
absolutely.
Because
honestly,
really,
there's
really,
some. Go on, sorry, you talk.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's really, really interesting. And it's really interesting when you talk to these, people that are running larger charities, is how similar they consider, a corporate business to running a charity. You've still got customers. The challenge they've got is you've got your customer as in your beneficiary, but you've also got your customer as in your funder, the people that are going to give you money. And so you have to balance what you're, how you're marketing and how you're telling people what you're doing and everything like that. So it's a really interesting, it's a really interesting concept. Now, again, there's about sort of 8 hours worth of content there of me talking to people about this subject. So I would definitely recommend having a listen to some of those.
I think that one of the consistent things they all said was that you have to not be afraid of marketing and sales. Just because you're a charity, you can't use that as an excuse. At the end of the day, your end goal is a way more important goal than any of ours or Michelle's accepted, because you are, again, as we talked about before we came on air, so to speak, your job is measured by how many people you can help. And that's the same thing. They remind everybody in their business, because sometimes sales and marketing is a yucky word. People don't like using it sometimes. But I remember particularly the head of mental health England. He was on, and he said, I had to just remind people, I just say to them, I know you don't like doing sales and marketing, but that's the thing that enables us to save and help so many different people. And that's the thing. I think once you get that mentality, then it's much easier for you to go ahead and do it. The biggest difference is you stick to your morals, you stick to your standards. You don't make stuff up. I'm not saying that, God forbid, I'm not suggesting anybody lies in sales and marketing. They do. But you are a bit more honest. But actually, that's a benefit. Yeah. But it's a benefit. It's a benefit because you can be more genuine. We worked with Career Connect. They basically work with they help people with their careers, but they also help businesses when they've had to let people go, with that side of it. And when they go into a business and say, we will help you, and we do it for half the price of everybody else because we're not here to make money, we just want to help the people. That's a genuine thing. I mean, there's no more powerful marketing than telling people the truth.
Do you know, and it's funny, we hear all the time from small businesses, it kind of feel a bit icky about telling people how great they are, like hiding your light under a bushel, or I don't want to sound like I'm showing off. I don't want to sound, and I'm like, but
show off.
The whole point.
You're brilliant.
Especially if you're a charity, my goodness, tell everyone how amazing you are. But as a small business, but sharing that is not, it's not inappropriate. Your customers do want to hear from you. They do want to hear what you're doing. They do want to hear how great you are. And that's whether you are selling a service or a product, or you're marketing a charity, or, somebody like Small Business Britain, and we'd give everything away. It's about people do want something from you. They absolutely do. Tell them how amazing you are, and it will work.
Yeah,
So,
and especially with a charity, but this is true of anyone. I often, we often say this when we're talking to people who say, "Oh, I don't really like marketing; it makes me feel uncomfortable." But it's like, your product is brilliant, and you've got an ideal customer. Your service is amazing, and somebody's life is going to be better if you make sure that you connect those two things together. And if you don't do that, if you don't do marketing, if you don't sell to people and don't convince people to take it, you're letting them down. Ultimately, you're stopping someone from making their life better by finding your product or your service. So some people find that fires them up. That works for me. I like to find people, because I know that if I don't find those people and we don't help them, then ultimately maybe they don't succeed in their marketing and they don't get to go further. So let that be your motivation, I think, to try and find those people.
I love that. You are going to make somebody's life better. You are. And if you don't tell them about it, you're not going to make their life better. And that's a tragedy.
James is an example, by the way, of this. He hates networking. He hates networking. And I have to drag him along to events. And I always remind him the same thing, which is the last time we went to these events, we met this person. Oh, yeah, they're great. And that's the reminder. You are meeting great people. That's why you do sales and marketing, so you can help great people.
Yes, exactly. We're actually running out of time. So I don't have time for another question. But wanted to just kind of finish up with saying thank you, guys. Thank you, James and Garry. Thank you for your energy and your, passion this morning. Okay. I think it's incredibly inspiring. I think sometimes these things come out, I've got to do it. I've got to do some marketing, and I feel a bit exhausted by it, and I feel a bit overwhelmed by it actually, or it's a bit scary, or I'm really busy and I don't have time to do it. And we've all been there. We've actually all been there.
Yes,
and
we have.
I think it really helps to hear you guys so passionate about it. It does it makes me feel more excited about it as well. I'm just going to think about my marketing, and I think that's what we all need. I think that's what small businesses need. And so thank you very much for sharing that passion with them this morning. There's lots of lovely comments in the chat. Thanks, you're amazing. You're so brilliant. Don't forget, we are recording this. In fact, you will know that if you're watching this on catch up, because you are watching it on catch up, so we recorded it. For everyone who is watching live, don't worry if you missed anything, we will send you a recording. If you want to get in touch with James and Garry, don't worry, we'll send you their contact details as well. What's the website, guys? What's the website?
James always says it better.
It's 33%.co.uk. That's all the letters and no numbers. I popped the link to the charity podcast. Someone asked about the charity podcast. I put that link in the chat. And obviously we'll send around the link to the ebook and everything like that. It's 33%.co.uk/smallbusinessbritain.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Love a freebie. Don't forget, there is lots more stuff coming up from Small Business Britain and Lloyds Bank Academy. You can catch up on all of our previous webinars over on the Small Business Britain Facebook page. You can find out about all future webinars by being on our newsletter, which you probably know because you're probably on it already. But if not, you can go to smallbusinessbritain.uk and sign up for there to be the very first to know about all the fabulous things that we are doing. Go and check out Lloyds Bank Academy, because there's loads of other free stuff over there as well. We love free stuff. We really do. That's going to help you and your business. That's it from us today. Thank you so much for joining. It's been lovely to see you all. Thank you for all the amazing, vibrant chat that we've had. Thank you, Garry and James. Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you all very soon. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.